Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. Here we go. The Golden Peas movie awards are coming up. We're looking at February 19th for the ceremony. But before we get to the ceremony, of course, we have to announce the nominees. Now, I had two friends of mine come along last year, and they absolutely slayed it. I love these guys so much, and I'm going to have them back every year until they stop showing up for it. But these Golden Pea Movie Awards are something I've been putting on for a long time. This is the seventh annual. It's the second year where I've been doing them on YouTube. And I decided to do something a little bit different this year. So I put it out there for anybody to, it was like a pool of 50. There were like 50 judges, if you will, that I kind of made the committee for this. And I threw it out to them and I let them kind of fill out the preliminary ballot, which is where we ended up with our nominees. So just so everyone knows, all these ballots were chosen by this group of 50 people, two of which I'm about to introduce you to. And they're also going to be giving you those nominees tonight. So it was not me stuffing the ballots. There was a couple opportunities I wanted to do that because I was like, oh, my favorites aren't necessarily getting a lot of love here. But these are voted on by the fans. The movie awards themselves will be voted on by the fans. So make sure you stay tuned. Producer Dan is most likely in the chat. He's going to be dropping the link to the official ballot for you after we do the nomination announcements. And you guys can head over there immediately. It'll be live right away during this broadcast to cast your vote. For this year's Golden Peas, we'll be honoring the best of 2023 at the movies. Let me bring in my two special guests here that I had to have back, like I said. Let's bring in first from, let's get her in here, from AwardsWatch, my friend Nicole Ackman. How are you, Nicole?
I'm good. I'm thrilled to be back.
I know, I really, really appreciate you doing this. And it's an ongoing joke for you and I, but we just found out, I don't know, a couple years ago that we live in the same town, basically.
Yep.
We're part of the same Film Critics Association, and we get to see each other at screenings and stuff now, which is awesome. I've been taking selfies with you. You're probably like, okay, dude, like, we get it. But nonetheless, thank you so much for being here once again to help us announce the nominees for this year's Golden Peas. It means a lot to me.
Always.
And then we know this guy. Here he is, JD Duran from In Session Film. One of my JD, I think you probably know this, but one of the longest like podcasts I've been listening to for the longest is In Session.
Wow.
I
Thank
can't
you
stop.
for listening. I really do appreciate that. And thanks for having me back. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the heck out of this last year. I'm looking forward to getting into it this year as well.
Yeah, me too. Guys, there are 9 categories this year for the Golden Peas. Now, last year we had 7. I am introducing new ones as we go along. There's 2 brand new categories for the Peas this year. One of them is for the best movie poster. I'm a big movie poster guy, as you can probably see by my backdrop, those of you watching on YouTube. And the other one is for best director, which I feel like is a no-brainer. And this year especially, and we'll get into it with our discussion of 2023 a little bit later with these two, but I think a lot of the big-time legends came back this year, right? And they were dropping some heat in the theaters.
Yes,
so if I'm going to introduce best director, why not do it in a year like this?
Yeah,
and we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. Guys watching the stream live, this, of course, will live on YouTube forever, for many years to come. But if you're watching this live and you want to comment, please do so. When the nominations are complete in about 5 minutes or so, we will get into our discussion of the nominees, the year in film, and we will make sure to acknowledge some of those comments over there, and I'll highlight them on the screen, and we'll answer some of your questions about the year in cinema. So make sure you keep throwing those comments up there, and I'll go back to those after the announcements. All right, so I'm going to bring up the slideshow, guys. I'm going to let the two of you do your thing, and I'm going to kind of drop off the call, and then I will return when you guys get done. So let me, I got to figure out how to, give me 1 second. All right, so let me turn this off, and then I'll bring the slideshow in. Nicole, you're going to start us off. It'll be showing up here in just a second, okay?
Alrighty. All right. First up, I will be announcing the nominees for a brand new category this year that I'm very excited about, the Best Movie Poster. And the nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, Evil Dead Rise, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest.
All right. Next, we will be looking into the nominees for Best Animated Movie of 2023. And the nominees are The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and finally, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Next, we'll be looking at the nominees in the category of Best Comedy Movie. And the nominees are Barbie, Bottoms, The Holdovers, No Hard Feelings, and Theater Camp.
All right, next up, I will be announcing the nominees for the category of Best Action Movie. And the nominees are Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, Godzilla -1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, John Wick Chapter 4, and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
And now I will be announcing the nominees in the category of Best Horror Movie. And the nominees are Evil Dead Rise, Infinity Pool, Megan, Talk to Me, and Thanksgiving.
Okay, it's now time for another new category this year, as we will be presenting Best Director. And the nominees are Celine Song for Past Lives, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Emerald Fennell for Saltburn, Greta Gerwig for Barbie, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, and finally Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things.
All right. Now let's take a look at some of the best acting performances of the year. First up is the award for Best Male Performance. And the nominees are Charles Melton for May December, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Zac Efron for The Iron Claw.
All right, next up, let's take a look at the category for Best Female Performance. And the nominees are Kaylee Spaney for Priscilla, Emma Stone for Poor Things, Greta Lee for Past Lives, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Margot Robbie for Barbie, and Rachel McAdams for Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
All right. And finally, JD and I will both partner in announcing the 10 nominees in the category of Best Movie of the Year. And the nominees are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, directed by Kelly Freeman Craig.
Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, directed by James Gunn.
Godzilla Minus One, directed by Takashi Yamazaki.
John Wick Chapter 4, directed by Chad Stahelski.
Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese.
Oppenheimer, directed by Christopher Nolan.
Past Lives, directed by Celine Song.
Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos.
And Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, directed by Joaquim Dos Santos and Justin K. Thompson.
All right. Guys, thank you so much. Y'all, I think the award shows are going to start calling you guys if they get wind of these YouTube streams. You guys are doing so good. And I felt bad too, JD, as we were doing them. I'm like, I gave JD all the really, really long titles. Dead Reckoning Part 1 and, Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, so I'm going to pull up the comments here. And like I said, I'll be kind of keeping track of those. So please throw your questions and your reactions to what got nominated this year. There was a group of 50 individuals, and I think about 47 or 48 of them came back to me, and these were the top 10. These got the most mentions among those 50 preliminary ballots. And here we go. So we'll go through all the categories, and we'll kind of react to what got nominated or what missed, quote unquote snub, even though, I mean, it's the Golden Peas. What are you going to do? What do you guys, Nicole, what do you think of this 10 group of movies here for Best Movie?
I am so fascinated by this 10, and I think it's amazing because it's, not just the movies that people think are going to be nominated for the Oscar for Best Film. And it really sort of shows a range and genre, and also in terms of when movies came out. I always love to see when people aren't just sort of doing some recency bias. And I'm super excited about things like Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and Godzilla Minus One and Past Lives getting in. And I think it shows that, the people that you are sharing this with are people who have really good taste in film and really, broad taste as well.
Yeah, sure. JD, what's your initial reaction?
Yeah, no, I very much agree with that. I think one of my favorite elements about the Golden Peas, because I felt this last year as well, I love how eclectic this mix is. You have something like, Celine Song and Past Lives, or Lanthimos and Poor Things, but then there's Godzilla Minus One, there's Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, it's John Wick 4, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Like, it's a really incredible mix that touches on all of these various aspects of cinema. So to Nicole's point, it's not just like one type of film that is talked about a ton when it comes to award season. It covers the gamut. And I think this is a really great crop of 10.
Anything missing, guys? Like one of your favorites of the year that you would have loved to have seen in here? I'll just interject real quick before you answer. The Iron Claw for me and Saltburn for me. Yes, I'm a sicko. Those two did not get enough mentions to make it in. What about you guys? Anything that you wish would have kind of shown up here?
Okay, seconding that, Saltburn.
Yes.
Saltburn is one of my faves of the year.
Sure.
Also, because obviously we do have some like franchise films represented here, I would have loved to have seen The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes make it into. It's my favorite franchise film of the year by far.
Wow, okay.
But I mean, otherwise, I feel like I can't complain too much. I've got Past Lives, I've got Barbie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen something like The Holdovers that's in my top 5 for the year, or maybe something like All of Us Strangers. But I mean, I love those movies, or maybe even something like David Fincher's The Killer. Would have liked to have seen here. But I agree with Nicole. I can't really complain. I really like these 10, and given the range of films that the voters were going for. I really have no complaints. I mean, I certainly have my favorites that I would have loved to have thrown in here selfishly, but on the whole, I mean, this is a good 10. Yeah.
Well, my buddy Gerald says Aquaman 2 got snubbed, so that's the one. That's the one missing for him, I guess. I think this is a great 10. I was a little surprised, and I was last year too, when I started doing these preliminary kind of like by committee to come up with the nominees, where it wasn't just me and my co-host doing it. It's always a bit surprising and eye-opening, but it usually really is a good thing because you're not just getting those awards baity movies like
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy is not going to get nominated for a
No.
ton of Oscars, and John Wick 4, even though it probably should when you're looking at stunts and set pieces and some other things. But I love to see movies like that get mixed in with those very awardsy kind of movies. In this
Yeah.
case, like Past Lives and Poor Things, and of course Oppenheimer and Barbie as well. So I love the mix there.
Yeah.
Let me pull up a couple different categories here and we'll run through them. So this is a new category where we highlighted the best movie poster of the year. It had to be a studio release poster. Do you guys look at this 5 and go, well, that's the winner? I mean, what do you think is?
Ooh.
Like for me, it's The Zone of Interest. That was
Yeah,
my favorite
same.
poster of the year, and I don't know, like it almost seems self-explanatory I mean, when you look at it. But that was the most effective one for me. These are a
Very
great
effective
5, though.
poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think these are a great 5. If there were 2 I could have added, it would have been All of Us Strangers, because I think that one is just gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
and then Emily, but that's me being selfish because my quote's
No,
on
that's
it.
a good one too. Yeah.
But no, but for me, the clear winner here is Zone of Interest. That said, I also definitely could see Oppenheimer winning because that poster
Yeah.
is so sort of iconic, and same with
You're
Poor
right.
Things. I feel
Yeah.
like that's become very iconic. But uh,
Poor
I
Things
think
had
that
a.
any of these would be a worthy winner.
I
Mhm.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, Poor Things had a really great just run of posters. This is the
Mhm.
one that I chose, but they had the one with her makeup all smeared, and it has the other characters hidden in the makeup. Did you guys see that recently came out?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then the one of her in the, I guess, yellowish orange dress too.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of really good Poor Things posters that are very abstract that kind of speak to the feel of that movie overall. I
Yeah.
think JD's right, though. I think Zone of Interest is, I mean, that's definitely the most like affecting poster where,
Hmm.
especially after you see the movie and you kind of
Yeah.
get the
Mhm.
kind of point of the poster, but it's just a really powerful piece of art, to describe that film, I feel like.
I
And
do
then to
like the
Nicole's
simplicity,
point,
though, of Anatomy of a Fall as well.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And to Nicole's point, I don't know that. I mean, Oppenheimer. That's going to be that image of him
Mhm.
engulfed in those flames.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's going to be embedded in cinematic history forever now, and
Yeah.
that
Big
comes from
time.
the poster. I
Hmm.
mean, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know what I
I
voted for, but I guess I won't tell you right now.
I love this category though, especially
Yeah. It's
because,
fun.
it's so fun because there can be a movie that like you don't really care for that much, but you love the poster.
Yeah.
True, true.
And I love that this is a way to let people share that love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Best animated movie here. There's a couple that, one in particular that I was really, really close to making that final 5. It's a movie called Suzume, which is
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
probably my favorite animated movie of the year. Yeah, it's up there with Nimona for me personally, but it didn't make it. What do you guys think here? I mean, obviously this is a powerhouse 5 here. A lot of people think this might be the
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oscar 5 as well. I don't know. Nimona's right on the teeter-tottering on the edge there.
Mhm.
What do you guys think? I mean, is Spider-Man running away with this, or what do y'all think?
Well, this is an interesting category. The one
Mhm.
animated film that's missing here that I think will be a player at the Oscars, at least I'm hoping so. I don't know, maybe Nicole can speak to it more than I can. But Neon has a film called Robot Dreams
Yeah,
that is
Oh,
top
yeah.
tier. It is
I love it.
excellent. It's
Hmm.
really
Mhm.
great. So like you include that in this mix as well. Like I thought it was an elite year for animation. For me, it was the
Yeah.
best year of animation since 2014. And it's interesting to me because, and maybe to you guys as well, because it felt like forever Spider-Verse had this category in the bag. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
at the last moment, here comes Hayao Miyazaki with just another stunner of a
Hmm.
Yeah.
movie. And I think that poses a threat here. Maybe at the Golden Peas, even at the Oscars, it just won the Globe. So
Right.
I think it's made for a fascinating conversation. What felt like a predictable category forever has become this heated contest, and one where we win no matter what. Like
Yeah.
whichever film of those two wins, we're all winning. So they're both great.
True.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's really fun to see it sort of coming down to The Boy and the Heron and the Spider-Verse movie, because they're both great films, and they're both films that are doing really interesting things with animation, and neither of them are sort of just your throwaway Pixar winner. And not that to say that I think Elemental is a bad nominee or a bad movie either. I think it's good. It just doesn't really compare to the other two.
Right.
But I think this is a good category. I agree, JD. There is some room. I think, Nimona could drop out. I also do think there's a chance that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles just isn't, the Academy's
That's true.
thing.
That's
Like,
true.
I don't want to be
Fair.
like, they could be too snobbish for it, but they could.
Mm.
But I definitely see here it being a battle between The Boy and the Heron and Spider-Verse.
Yeah, me too.
I do know some people, I think, especially, I saw people in North Carolina film critics were talking about being sort of underwhelmed by Boy and the Heron because they had such high expectations for it.
Mm.
And I feel like that wasn't really the feeling towards Spider-Verse. So I don't know if that will come in. I don't also know if like maybe The Boy and the Heron will get that recency bias and that'll push it ahead. But I think that this is a really fun category this year.
Well, I think what I'm sorry, JD, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, to Nicole's point, I find that fascinating what you're talking about there with The Boy and the Heron, because there's no denying it. That is Miyazaki at his most surreal, and it is a film you really need to watch a couple of times. I feel like there's a lot going on to it. It's very dense. I love it. It's a Miyazaki buffet. It's everything he's given us previously. How voters will respond to that, I don't. It's an interesting question. I'm very compelled by it.
One thing I just wanted to point out before we go to the next category is that of these 5 movies, one of them is in the best movie, the top 10 for that category is Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And I think that The Boy and the Heron is on that late surge, though, I think. It's kind of gaining momentum in the last few weeks. But to JD's point, Spider-Verse just felt like a runaway. And I don't know, with Miyazaki's, with kind of the narrative there, I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely a stiff challenger, to say the least, right now. So, but the 50 people that I polled, the preliminary ballot, I mean, Spider-Verse was far and ahead in terms of animated movies getting mentioned. So
yeah, and as you noted, it was in the 10 for Best Picture, so it's fair to say it's probably going to win that category.
it looks good for him, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Best comedy. This one made me really happy, guys. You mentioned the holdovers, JD. There it is. It showed up here. But I love, honestly, Bottoms, No Hard Feelings, and Theater Camp getting enough love to be among the 5 most mentioned for comedy. How do you guys feel about this category overall? Is there anything missing in your mind here?
Oh, I mean, I just have to say, first of all, that this category is a win for the theater kids. Between Theater Camp being here and like Andrew Barth Feldman having come like, straight off of Broadway, I love that child with my whole heart.
Nice.
And then I feel like Bottoms also has theater kid energy, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, it's definitely showy.
Barbie, so it's a win for the theater kids here. It's also, I feel like this is a really interesting set because it shows a lot of sort of different facets of comedy, which I always really appreciate whenever you don't sort of get stuck in a year where it feels like all the comedy is like the same type.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was a really great year for comedy. The only film that I would maybe swap out here, and, no hard feelings to No Hard Feelings. I love Jennifer Lawrence. She's a capital M, capital S movie star.
Yeah,
and she's great in that film. But I would switch that out with Joyride, which I enjoyed a little bit more than No Hard Feelings. But yeah, I mean, it was a great year. And Barbie's great. Bottoms is great. Theater Camp was one of my favorite surprises of the summer. That was such a great movie. I loved it. And as I noted, The Holdovers is in my top 5 of the year. Like, great year for comedies.
Yeah,
I would
Joyride was
also Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say
Well,
Joyride was one of my I did like my most overlooked movies of the year.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I did a video on that like a week ago, and that was one of my top 5
I love
overlooked
that movie.
movies.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. I need to watch it.
There you
I
go.
It's very good.
I would also be swapping out No Hard Feelings.
Okay.
It's again, like, I love Andrew Barr Feldman. I love Jennifer Lawrence. The premise of it was where I kind of got stuck.
Sure.
Fair.
But and this I feel like is controversial, but I would swap it for Dumb Money. I loved Dumb
Okay.
Money.
Okay.
I just tend to like whatever Gillespie does in general.
Mhm.
Like he is my like weird info
Sure.
dump comedy guy of
Mm.
choice. But it was a really good year for comedy, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to my co-host Nick. He loves Dumb Money. I'm kidding. He did not like it at all. But if he's watching, I know he loved that shout out there. All right, so a pretty strong category for best comedy. But before we move on, I mean, this is Barbie, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
gonna
I
probably win
would
this.
assume. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe the holdovers with that, going on Peacock now and more people being
Mhm.
able to see it, it might give it a run for its money. And Giamatti is so damn charismatic out there on the trail right now. I mean, I don't know how you vote
Yeah.
against the guy, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see Barbie losing, at least not in this category.
I mean,
Yeah.
unless people are voting Barbie for best film, and so they want to do something different here, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I would assume it's
Barbie.
Barbie as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Also, yeah, we do have a comment for the record. A
What do you
couple
say?
of comments of how much he hates Dumb Money.
Oh
So
yeah,
I hear you,
I told
buddy.
you. I told you.
I said it would be controversial. I'm speaking my truth.
Oh man. You know what?
Yeah,
I
that's
liked it too.
fair.
I liked it too. I stuck up for it when we reviewed it on the show, Nicole. So,
Oh, hell yeah.
best action movie, guys. We just did our top 5 movies of 2023 last night. We recorded that, so not to give
Mhm.
away any super spoilers here, but I loved all these. Godzilla Minus One is easily one of my favorite movies of the year across any genre. It was talked about a lot on that episode last night where we ended the year. That's it for me. But man, and what's interesting too, and this happened last year. I don't know if you guys remember, but 3 out of these 5 are nominated for best movie as well. And last year on the action category, I think it was like 3 or 4 of them were nominated for
Yeah.
best picture as well. A
Yeah.
really, really strong category, right? Like I feel like these are all really good movies.
I agree. I really liked all of these. Dungeons and Dragons was a fun little surprise earlier in the year. I presume the winner is going to be Godzilla Minus One, especially given
Over John Wick, huh?
I think so. I think it has a recency bias to it, and people are really salivating over Godzilla Minus One. And maybe that's my epic of me to say. I don't know. Who knows? But my vote here would be John Wick Chapter 4. That's where I would go. And maybe I'll be surprised. Who knows? Maybe that does come out victorious here. But I mean, John Wick 4 for me has some of the best supporting performances of the year, I think. The cinematography is off the charts. I love the soundtrack. I think it has an underrated soundtrack as well. Yeah, the best John Wick movie as far as I'm concerned. I really loved it a lot, but I do think, maybe it's premature for me to say, but I think this is Godzilla Minus One's category.
Yeah. Nicole, what do you think of these? Did you get to see all these 5?
No, I am
Oh.
not a John Wick or a Mission Impossible girl.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Not because I dislike them per se. Like I've never seen a Mission Impossible. But I'm just not
You just wait till they bring it to Broadway, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna flip you.
I'm just
Right.
not on that type of action film. Like I'm not big on it. That being said, Dungeons and Dragons was incredibly my kind of action.
So good.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
It was
give me
fun, yeah.
somebody with a sword. Like that's what I like to see.
Yeah.
And it
Little
was
Mini
very
Cooper.
funny. I also I have to love Dungeons and Dragons because any movie that knows how to use Hugh Grant correctly is an A+ in my book. And the correct way to use Hugh Grant is as a weird little dude.
So Wonka did okay too then.
Oh, listen, he was in fact a weird little dude, and
He
I
was.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I keep forgetting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was this year.
Yeah,
It
people
feels like
love
so
that thing,
long
man. I
ago.
mean, I don't dislike it, but it is, I don't know, it's surprising to me because it made it into best
Yeah,
movie. It was one of the
Yeah.
10 most
Gar-
mentioned films.
I'll also admit Guardians is like my least favorite Marvel
Oh
like
yeah?
subcategory. I am
Okay.
well on record as a Chris Pratt hater.
Fair.
All right.
His face just makes me angry at this point. Um, I see him and all I can see in my head is that like Instagram post that he did about his new wife. Um,
Hmm.
Oh
but,
yeah, I remember
but
that.
even I will admit that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is great.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a good movie, yeah, for sure.
so I think this is, again, I love to see the variety that we have in this
Mhm.
category. It's, not all franchise films. Like we've got Godzilla minus one there, which is awesome. It's, Dungeons and Dragons being like this new sort of franchise, obviously drawing on older material, but it's
Hmm.
not all like fours and sevens and whatnot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan has a point. Producer Dan over in the chat, I threw it up there, but
Extraction
he
2.
says
Yeah.
Extraction 2
I
should be
liked
here.
it. Yeah.
I tend to agree, to be honest. Take Guardians out and put Extraction 2 here. I can't
Yeah.
remember where that finished in the voting, but did you guys see that one? I love that movie. That was a
I did.
great
I
action
would
film.
still take Guardians over it. In fact, Guardians would probably be my number 2 of these 5 if I'm being
Oh,
honest.
okay.
I loved Guardians a lot. I think it's one of Marvel's best. They haven't had the greatest track record in recent years.
Yeah.
But I do think
What do
that
you
one
mean?
but I do think that one is quite good. Maybe it's the James Gunn of it all. Honestly, one of the aspects of it that I love, ironically, given his presence in the awards campaign right now, is Bradley Cooper. I think he's campaigning for the wrong performance. I think he gives the best performance of the year as Rocket in Guardians of the
Wow.
Galaxy Volume 3. I say earnestly. Like,
Wow.
You know what? I would agree with you. I think he's better in this movie than he is in Maestro.
yeah,
Y'all
I
are
mean,
wild.
he's
Poor
great
Bradley.
as Rocket. I've always been on the record that he should be considered more for his voice performance in Rocket. He's fully committed to it,
Sure.
and he's the central character in that film and is really terrific in that role. And look, nothing against him in Maestro. I'm not an anti-Maestro person. I think he's fine in that film. I think his direction is really great, but I much prefer his vocal performance as Rocket in Guardians, especially since he's the central character there.
Interesting.
There are a
I love
lot of actors who don't actually do voice performances well. I'm looking at you, Chris Pratt, but
Good point.
but Bradley Cooper, I think,
Mario.
is so good at it and is so good
Yeah.
at fitting a voice to a character and not just using his own voice and
Yes.
and really making sure that there's enough emotion in it. And I
That's a really great point because
Yeah.
you watch Mario Brothers and you know it's Chris Pratt. You
Yep.
hear Chris Pratt. When you're watching Rocket, you're not taken aback
Never.
that it's
That's
Bradley Cooper.
Rocket.
It is Rocket that you're watching on
Yep.
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with
it's-
that.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the categories, I know you guys do this, you and Jay and Brendan do this, but voice acting was one of the categories that we may introduce
Yeah,
on
I
future
think
Golden
it should be
Peas.
considered. Absolutely.
Maybe we'll have to go back or maybe they'll do another Guardians and Bradley will be in there. I don't know.
There you
Who
go.
knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. you
All
should.
right. Well, you guys know I'm a horror guy, so this one is super close to my heart. This might be a bold statement to any horror fans watching. I don't know that 2023 was as strong as 2022 in the horror genre, in my opinion. But I do love all 5 of these movies to varying degrees. There's 2 of them that I'm freaking crazy about. And then there's 3 that I'm just kind of like, yeah, they were decent. But these are the 5 that got in here. I know you guys aren't necessarily big horror heads, but what have you seen here? What do you think of these nominees?
I'll be honest, I've seen one.
Oh, wow. Okay, which
I'll do
one?
you-
Talk to me.
I'll do you one better. I've seen none of them.
You've seen none of these.
Okay.
The closest I came to horror this year was Fair Play.
Wow, that could be
yeah,
considered
fair enough,
horrific
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one did
I-
you see, JD?
I really wanted to see Infinity Pool. I really did. I just didn't get a chance to see it. I've seen Talk to Me, and I really liked Talk to Me.
That's the one you
I
saw.
w- I will say there are 2 others that aren't nominated here that I loved.
If
One
you
of
say
them is
Skin of
very
Marine,
polarizing.
don't do it. I know you're going to.
One of them is When Evil Lurks.
Oh, that's a
Okay,
great one. That's a
okay.
good one.
Loved that film.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
watched that on Halloween night. Scared
Mm.
the living bejesus out of me. Very effective. The other one is Skinamarink.
I
I
know.
love it. I'm sorry I did. I know it's polarizing. I love that.
That's fine. Yeah, actually, When Evil Lurks was my favorite horror movie of the year, and I
Oh,
think it was
yeah.
like I think it just placed right outside the top 5. I just don't think enough people had seen it when we
Yeah, it's
did
a
the
small little film. I
Yeah.
got
preliminary
no
ballot. But that was my
marketing.
favorite horror film of the year,
Yeah,
and as a
great,
horror junkie,
great
that's
horror
saying a
film.
lot. So,
Yeah.
Nicole, you would love Megan. I'm just going to tell you right now, it is campy,
Yeah.
silly, just
I've thought about giving it a go. I feel
yeah,
it is the kind of thing though where I feel like I saw that trailer so many times that by the time it came out, I was like, I've basically already seen the film.
mhm.
Like, I'm
Yeah, that's true.
good. But I
That's
think
true.
now I'm far enough from having had that trailer like slammed at me like every
Yeah,
time I went to see a movie that I could actually watch it.
I think
Mhm.
I think Talk to Me is probably going to win this. It just seemed to
Mm.
be the best or the most well received horror movie this year. Thanksgiving is really the only quote unquote slasher in this category, and it's really good in my opinion. Eli Roth, Evil Dead Rise. I mean, I love all the Evil Dead films. That would probably get my vote among the 5 here. Would be Evil Dead Rise, but I think this is probably Talk to Me's award. And you said you like
Yeah.
that one, right, JD?
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. Yeah. I don't know about the ending. I'm still wrestling with that.
Yeah.
But I think everything up to that point is quite good.
Let's see. Dan's in all caps is yelling at me. When are the awards? I will put that banner up now because I have that announcement there. So it's going to be Monday,
There you go.
February 19th at 9:30 Eastern. Me and Loisos, and the link. I know Dan's been dropping it in the chat, and the Facebook comments are not showing up for me. So hopefully he's doing that over in the Facebook group as well. But the ballot is live now that we've made the announcements. So make sure you guys follow the link and head over to cast your ballot, and let's get we got a month of voting to get in here. So when we start looking at performances, we do male and female for the Golden Peas, and we group supporting and lead together. It doesn't matter the duration that they're in the film. If they get mentioned and they're in the top 6, I did 6 nominees this year for both. Same thing for the director. Then they are one of the nominees to be eligible to be voted on here. A late surge in the last like couple weeks for Zac Efron. He ended up making the top 6 here. Obviously, some powerhouse ones from the lead perspective and from the supporting perspective, which makes this super interesting here. What do you guys think, before we look at female, what do you guys think of these nominees here in the male category?
I think it's a good set. It's missing some of my favorites this year. My top 3 of the year are Andrew Scott in All of Us Strangers, Barry
Mhm.
Keoghan in Saltburn,
Oh, yeah.
and Coleman Domingo in Rustin and
Mhm.
or The Color
And the
Purple.
color purple, too, yeah. Mhm.
I think Coleman Domingo had such a good year.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
But I think this category is really fun. I mean, obviously you've got Ryan Gosling here as he should be, and Cillian Murphy. But I think that, some of these supporting performances that make it in here are really interesting because you have Robert Downey Jr. with his sort of comeback in a way, like coming back from playing Tony Stark. And I really do feel like his performance in Oppenheimer is sort of like that's where the actor from Chaplin went. But you also have Charles Melton, which I think is so great because, coming off of a show that is perhaps not the best in quality. It's really fun to see him go straight into a film like this and give this kind of performance. And I think he's the best thing in May, December. So I'm thrilled to see him like getting recognition for that. And it's also one of those things where, I'm seeing in the chat, Dan, I actually saw Doolittle in the theater, and I've spent a lot of time blocking it out of my brain. Thanks,
RDJ
Seth.
Oh, you
had to
were the
come
one
back
that
from
saw it.
Doolittle.
Okay.
I am the one person. Yeah, it's because my sister is that big of a Tony Stark stan.
wow.
She
Okay.
pulled the whole family to the theater
Nice.
for that.
Oh, nice,
Wow.
nice.
And then for Oppenheimer, she was like, "We have to go see it." I was like, "This man has done a weird number on you." You would never guess. We both have a totally good relationship with our dad. Um,
How about a Doolittle Oppenheimer double feature for her
you
birthday or
know,
something like that?
I do feel like in some ways, Doolittle is exactly what you need after Oppenheimer, which is to
Sure.
say, like
Yeah.
something where your brain can just sit and be mush.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, I think this is a good set, even though it is missing a lot of, the performances that I would love to have seen recognized. But it's hard with only having 6 spots like that.
It's tough, and I love the ones that you mentioned too. Personal preference for me
Mhm.
too, in a lot of ways. But what I think,
Yeah.
JD, I want to hear what you think of this group. But RDJ here that you were talking about is up against Cillian Murphy, really. I mean, in the
Yeah.
same movie
Yeah.
here.
hmm
I think I don't know, man. What do you think, JD, of this group here?
I do really like this group. I'm with Nicole in the sense that there are a few missing that I really loved, such as Jamie Bell from All of Us Strangers as my pick for
Mhm.
Best Supporting Actor of the
Okay.
Year.
So good.
Um, or I would go to someone like Milo Mikado Grenier for Anatomy of a Fall. I think is one of the
Oh yeah.
best child performances we've seen in God knows how long. And my other favorite performance, I do understand why it's not here. It's a film that really hasn't had a wide release yet. Is Koji Yakusho in Perfect Days? When that film comes out, oh my God, it's
Yeah, I have a
an
screener for
incredible
that, but I
performance.
haven't watched it yet. I've heard
So
really,
so
really
so
good
so
things about
good.
it though.
But I will say, I love Cillian Murphy. I think he does give genuinely one of the best performances of the year. I don't think that's just an awards thing. And my best actor performance is Paul Giamatti. I think he gives the best performance of his career. There's something that's so magnetic about his performance. I love how abrasive he is early on and how that is deconstructed over the course of the film with those other 2 actors that he's with. Divine Joy Randolph, just absolutely terrific in that film as
Hmm.
well. So yeah, I love Paul Giamatti and that dynamic he has in that film. So that would be my vote of these
Yeah,
6. But
I
this is
get
a
that.
really good 6. I mean, Zac Efron was one of my picks for best surprise performance of the year. I mean,
Really
I've
was, yeah.
always really liked him, but I think he even goes beyond any expectation I had of him in that film. He carries that film immensely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely loved him. And Charles Melton, maybe I'm a little bit higher on that film than you guys are. I love the film. I think Julianne Moore and
Natalie
Natalie
Portman.
Portman are terrific in that film. And as much as I love them, I don't disagree with Nicole that Melton might still give the best performance in it. He's
Yeah.
going
He
toe to
does.
toe with 2 of the greats and
And that was
absolutely
what
delivers a
and that was what
devastating
I took
character.
that was what I took away from that film because I wasn't like super high on it either. I mean, I didn't hate it,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It was just a very kind of melodic. It was a strange watch. Like, ironically, the score, who my partner Nick said it sounded like Tommy Wiseau came up with the score, which I thought was a great analogy.
Yes.
But I love those weird comedic kind of things built into that movie
Mhm.
and Charles Melton. And that was really it for
Mhm.
me, which is crazy because Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman are 2 of the all-time like icons walking on Earth.
Mhm.
And I didn't even know who this Charles Melton kid really was. So to walk
Mhm.
away from it going, who was that guy?
Yeah, I
You
had
know,
never
Yeah.
seen the show either, so
yeah.
this
Yeah,
was
me either.
a discovery for me. Yeah.
I
Zach,
also just want to point out really fast because I was looking at these pictures and I was like, wow, this is a group of 6 very sad men. Uh,
they
like
are. What
no
is?
one
Yeah.
is having a positive emotion here.
I mean,
No.
Gosling
Um,
looks happy at least. I mean,
eh,
well, I
kind of.
don't
It's
know.
also okay. Gosling in the middle of like all of these men looks
Yeah,
so funny in that
yeah,
outfit. I am
he,
obsessed.
he
yeah. I
does.
agree. I agree. I agree. I
There is
think.
a lot of sadness though on screen. You are right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, these characters go through it though,
They
in their
do.
defense too.
They
So
very much do. Yeah.
yeah, I
Even
think this
Ken.
might be a.
Even Ken. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. RDJ got a ton of votes, honestly, in the preliminary ballots, and
Mm.
I think it might come down to like him or Giamatti. They're both
Mhm.
so loved in just the history of film, and my personal preference, at least from these 6, would probably be Zac Efron. That just hit me like a ton of bricks when I saw it about a month ago.
Great performance. Yeah.
So good, and kind of like what JD said, I just didn't expect that. Like I thought it would be more like an ensemble kind of. I didn't think one person was going to like blow me away,
Mhm.
and for
hmm
it to be Zac Efron too was a bit of a very very pleasant surprise. But yeah, I mean, Cillian Murphy, RDJ, Giamatti, it's probably among those three. I would guess. But
Yeah.
real quick, what do you guys think of this Cillian Murphy versus Giamatti showdown for the Oscar? What do you think? I mean, that's where we're
heating
headed,
up.
right?
It's heating
Yeah.
up, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how much weight you give to Critics' Choice necessarily, but I don't know how much weight you give to the Globes. So it's I don't know. It's hard to
I know.
say.
Yeah,
But
we'll have to see.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. Again, that's like we talked about with animated. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, I think we win no matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Conversely, as we switch over to talk about, we just got a couple more categories to touch on here, but best female performance. I
Mhm.
love this group too.
Yeah.
You know, before I hear from you guys, I mean, Lily Gladstone was my favorite part of Killers of the Flower Moon by a country
Same.
mile, and that's to say I didn't even really like Leo's performance. I know that might be a kind of hot take, but I just thought it was
I
kind of an
agree.
SNL character after a while. He's done so much better things, in my opinion. Now, who am
Mhm.
I? I mean, he can act circles around me, but as far as his resume goes, I definitely prefer him in other things. And De Niro's De Niro, so I'm kind of like, all right, he's doing his thing, but it's De Niro. But Lily Gladstone was just a revelation in this film, and without her, I don't even know if I would have liked the movie. Honestly, I mean, she really.
I
I
agree.
wish she was more prominent in the film. Molly's
Mhm.
story, I wish was a little more prominent. But with what she had to work with, um, her performance is what I keep with me from that film. I think that would her and Greta Lee are my two in this category. What do you guys think of this group as a whole? Nicole, what do you think here?
Yeah, I think it's a good group overall. I'm excited to see some of my favorites of the year in this group, like Greta Lee and Lily Gladstone. Thrilled to see Kaylee get in here for Priscilla,
Yeah.
because I'm a big fan of Priscilla, and I think that she does an amazing job in a very difficult role, honestly. Um, I am also thrilled to see Rachel McAdams get into here.
Me too. That was so
Uh,
cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I co-sign everything in this comment.
Yeah, me too. That's kind of what I was saying as well.
Yeah. I am sad. My like main one that I'm really sad to see missing is I was gonna say Daniel Brooks, but any of the women from The Color Purple.
Yeah, or
Um,
Divine Joy Randolph too, which by the way was
yeah.
number 7. She was right outside
Okay.
this
Okay.
group in the preliminary ballots. But yeah, I was a
Yep.
little surprised by that, to be honest.
Yeah. And then my girl Rachel Zegler for Ballad of Songbirds and
Yeah,
Snakes.
that would have been sweet.
Which would have been so cool. I think I had her on my ballot.
Did you? Nice. I think so
Yeah,
too, because
but
she got a few mentions, so you
yeah,
probably did.
there we go.
Yeah.
My power. But I'm really curious to see who wins this one because I mean, I think I know who will take it, but I could see it going a couple of different ways.
Before JD gives his commentary, who do you think? I'm just curious.
I think Emma Stone could take this, which
Okay.
is
All right.
I'm gonna be bold and say it, my least favorite of these performances.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, but I feel like she's got so much momentum right now that I
hmm
could see people going with it.
JD, what do you think here, man?
Okay. Well, I don't want to stir the pot, but Emma Stone is my favorite by far of these
Here we
six.
go. Here we go.
And look, I'm willing to admit I might be a little bit biased because I watched Poor Things, and at the time, my youngest was 7 months old. Okay.
Mm.
So I'm watching the first 5 minutes of this movie, and you see Emma Stone depicting the mind of a 7 month. And so I look
hmm
at the screen, I look down at my child, I look at the screen, I look down at Andrew. It's the same behavior, verbatim, the same behavior. I don't know what she did to tap into that, what kind of research or how she decided to make those choices, but it was verbatim the same, and I was utterly enthralled by it. And then the film, of course, evolves from there, but I was completely hooked and engrossed by all of its weirdness and its bold choices that it makes. And Emma Stone, I just think, is utterly fantastic. I love what she's doing in that film. I mean, I love all of these performances to one degree or another. The only other one, well, I guess maybe there's two other performances I would have liked to have seen here. I mentioned Divine Joy Randolph earlier from The Holdovers. Absolutely loved her in that. And my other performance that I will champion for 2023 and forever, amen, is Penelope Cruz in Ferrari. I think
so
it's
good.
one of the best performances of the
Oh man,
year.
so good.
Yeah.
I agree.
She
I
is
agree.
striking in that film.
I just think the rollout of that film too was obviously not conducive to the voting
Yeah.
here for the most part, but also it's just kind of, I don't know, it could have been a bigger player. I feel like I mean, I
Yeah.
really liked it. I thought it was old school Michael Mann, and I love Penelope Cruz. I hate all the vitriol that Driver's been getting because I thought he was great in it.
I
I thought it
agree.
was great.
I know.
Yeah.
I love when people are when he's like, "Screw you guys!" Like I'll
Oh my
play Italians
Yeah.
twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I mean,
I
I'm a
agree with you.
huge man guy, so I mean, maybe I'm biased there, but I love the film, really loved her performance. She's in many ways the beating heart of it. So, I mean, that's my vote for Best Supporting Actress of the Year. But of the 6 here, I also want to say I love Greta Lee as well. Probably my number 2 of these 6. And if she was to win, I'd be absolutely thrilled. I absolutely love that film, love Greta Lee. But my vote would go to Emma Stone here.
Thank you for proving my point about thinking she'll win.
Yeah, yeah. It is going to be a popular one for sure. JD, Nick says he just heard from Roger Goodell, if you have too many hot takes, they're going to take away the Lions win. So be careful.
You can't take it away. It's forever written in history.
I thought that was funny. All right,
I
and
don't
then
know if that's a hot take though. How is that a hot take?
no, I think he was talking. What was he? I think it was something you mentioned before. I'm sorry. I was trying not to interrupt you and throw it
I
out
was gonna say.
there. Yeah, Nick, what was the hot take? All right, so the last category that we'll touch on here is Best Director. What I was really, really pleased with, I went with 6. Like I said, whenever there was people being nominated, I went with 6. And I love that it's half women here. I just personally was so proud and happy for that.
Yeah.
And not only that, the 3 women that ended up getting nominated are 3 of the best movies of the year. Like Past Lives Saltburn and Past Lives are easily in my top 5 of the year. And then we were talking earlier on in the recording, guys, about these powerhouse filmmakers that are coming back to form this year. And you've really got the other 3 slots taken up with 3 of those guys. I'm pretty pleased here. I mean, there's obviously a couple that could be here that I would have loved to have seen as well, because you only have 6. But what do we think here? Nicole, Best Director, when you look at this group?
Yeah. I am really obsessed with 3 of these nominees. I'm really excited to see that other people are too. I think, obviously what Greta Gerwig did with Barbie is just incredible. I also think it's kind of interesting to look at this and think about how this really is a case of like auteur direction and in a good way of people who really, the movie is their thing, which I always think is interesting. I'm so excited to see Celine Song here. And also really excited to see Emerald Fennell here. I love Saltburn. I love how wacky it is. I love how Emerald Fennell is a director who is willing to, throw it all to the wall and follow her own crazy vision and
Yeah, sure.
seemingly not care if other people are willing to follow it. I am not huge on Marty Scorsese's direction of this movie. It is one of my least favorite of his films, I think.
Okay.
I also feel like it's one of those things where there wasn't anything in it that in any way surprised me that Marty could pull it off. I'm well on record. I hated Poor Things, and a lot of that was the direction of it. Lanthimos and I just do not vibe, and I've accepted that. And like Nolan is Nolan. And obviously he did some incredible things in Oppenheimer. It feels very much like a culmination in some ways of who he is as a director. And even though I'm not like a Nolan fan, I think that his direction in that is kind of undeniable. But overall, like I think it's a really interesting set of 6 that you have here.
I think it's probably going to come down to Nolan and Gerwig, which frankly, I mean, come on.
Barbenheimer
was the cinematic thing of our lifetime, so it probably should come down to the 2 of them. But, when it comes to Yorgos, I'll just retort real quick. I mean, Poor Things is nowhere near being my favorite film of his, but I do like his weird auteur kind of fearless style. And I mean, for me, The Favorite is easily my favorite, no pun, movie of his. But I think him and Emma Stone just collaborate really well together, and it was a really interesting film. I'll leave it at that. I think it was a very interesting movie to watch. Like, it was bizarre. It was bizarrely like magnetic where I was watching it. I was like, do I like this? Or like, why the hell am I so attracted to what's happening right now? So I just think he has that really weird, keen eye. But for me, I mean, in this category is Celine Song. I mean, she, especially as a first time director, as her debut,
Yeah.
it would
Insane.
be it would be between her and Emerald Fennell, but I'm also a huge Fennell fanboy, so I'm super biased.
Same.
I mean, she could direct, anything happening, and I'd be like, oh my god, give this every award under the sun.
We're her fan
JD,
club right here, actually.
That's
You
right,
and
that's
me.
right, that's right. We got it. Saltbird, rise up. JD, what do you think, man?
Well, this is a lot of fun because I love how we're coming at this from various angles, and I hate to keep, I guess, being the pinprick in this balloon because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being antagonistic, and I'm certainly not trying to be.
Sure, yeah.
But like I do come at this from the opposite end of you guys in the sense that I do not like Saltburn. I think Fennell's direction is overdone. I don't really like it all that much. However, I do love Scorsese. This era of Scorsese for me is as good as anything he's done. Even going back to Silence, Hugo, even what we saw with The Irishman and how he deconstructs his own legacy in that film. I think that's exactly what Killers of the Flower Moon is doing. It's his patented crime drama formula that you've seen in The Wolf of Wall Street, that you've seen in Goodfellas, which are films that, while it has these rapacious characters, it has this diverting tone. Killers has none of that. It's all about him deconstructing, again, his own ethos, particularly with how he manifests tone in that film. And then how he speaks to why it can't be from Lily Gladstone's perspective in this film. Like, that's something this film directly tackles at the end, which I think is incredible. So, like, he understands the flaws here, speaks to it directly in this incredible way that adds a pathos to it. And I just love how ruminative it is. This whole era of Scorsese and him reflecting on his legacy is astounding to me. And to me, that's what makes Killers of the Flower Moon as great as it is. The performances are wonderful. I love the screenplay, but that's Scorsese at his A game. Celine Song, I agree with you. She, as far as a debut film goes, it's one of the best of perhaps the last decade or so. And for me, she writes the screenplay of the year. That would be my vote for screenplay. When it comes to direction, I don't know how to say this without sounding hyperbolic, but Nolan and what he does with Oppenheimer is astounding. For me, that film, and again, I know this will sound hyperbolic, but Oppenheimer, I truly believe, is one of the very best films of the 21st century so far. When you think about the 2000s, for a lot of people, you immediately go to There Will Be Blood. I think that will be Oppenheimer for the 2020s. That'll be the film that defines this decade in many ways. The editing of Oppenheimer is some of the best I've ever seen. The score is going to win the Oscar, and for good reason. All of the crafts it wins, I think, is wholly deserved. And you have an ensemble cast that's just electric, from top to bottom. I mean, Downey Jr. is going to end up winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, but you could toss that Oscar around to anyone within that ensemble, as far as I'm concerned. It's the whole thing is just excellent. It is the achievement of the last 10, 15 years for sure.
Right.
But I also, Lanthimos, him and I get along. I do like Lanthimos a lot. It's not my favorite Lanthimos, but I do like Poor Things. Same thing with Greta Gerwig. Her last two features were my favorite films in their respective years. So, I mean, I will always love Greta Gerwig, and what she does with Barbie is nothing short of excellent. So, mostly a great crop. I don't love Fennell as much as you, but mostly a great crop. I love the other five. But for me, this is easily Nolan.
It's a tough room, man. You're talking to the Emerald Fennell fan club, so
I know,
Yeah.
I know, which is why I tried
respect
to avoid
you,
it until now. I tried to walk
you.
around.
No, I respect you voicing your opinion. You had great points there, and I agree with you in terms of like a lot of the legacy stuff that you said about Scorsese. It really is fascinating, and how the movie kind of mirrors a lot of that narrative too from his own career, and just the fact that, like me and Nicole were lukewarm on that film, but I mean, just the fact that he made that movie at this stage in his career,
Mhm.
whether you
Yeah.
like it or not, is freaking insane.
I don't think he
So
could have made that 15, 20 years ago. I think
right,
he
right.
had to do it now. I think this Scorsese makes that film what it is.
Well, as we wrap up, guys, I'll just throw up the title card here one more time for the best movie of the year for the Golden Peas. And there you have the 10 that made the final cut. And we just went through each individual category. Now, we had a lot of information thrown at you. So at the bottom of the screen there, you can see it. Dan's also been throwing it up in the chat for anybody watching live. And it will be in the show notes if you're watching a replay of this on YouTube or listening to it. But the award ceremony will be Monday, February 19th. At 9:30 p.m., and they are voted on by you, by the public. 100% of your votes will decide the winner, and the link, like I said, is all over the place for you to click there and cast your ballot. Guys, I can't thank y'all enough for coming back this year to help me announce the nominees for the Golden Peas. A fight almost broke out between the Emerald Fennell fan club and JD, but we held ourselves back.
Listen, I'm
Uh,
so happy that between me and JD, it's like every director, every
yeah, we
film had an
covered it.
advocate
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
covered it.
Yeah, we got everybody covered. Yeah.
Yeah.
We covered it for sure.
As if it was planned.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
We're going to be signing off here in a minute, guys. Real quick, Nicole, tell everyone what you would like to point them to, where they can find you online.
Yes, so I am on Twitter. I refuse to call it anything else.
Please don't.
Instagram and Letterboxd at Nicole Ackman 16. And you can find my work over at AwardsWatch and also at my relatively still new site, Culture Cabinet, which is www.culturecabinet.com, where I'm doing reviews and feature pieces along with Lex Williams, our fellow North Carolina film critics girl,
Love her.
and Dan Bayer, who you might know from AwardsWatch or Next Best
Love her.
Picture.
Yeah.
We're covering not just film, but also music, television, books, theater, all kinds of stuff. So definitely give it a look.
Dan Bayer will actually be a presenter, by the way, at the Golden
Oh.
Peas
Oh my
this year. I
God.
can't
My
remember
boy.
I can't remember the category we decided on, but he'll be one of the presenters. I'll be announcing those on Twitter and social media in the coming days.
Exciting.
A day or two, but I got all of our presenters locked in, so I'm really excited. We got some new ones coming in, and it's going to be great. JD, In Session, like I said, one of my favorite, longest running podcasts I've been listening to. Just the breakdown of film, and you can just feel the passion every episode you guys do.
Thank
I'm
you.
a big fan, man, but in case anybody doesn't know, tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Yeah, you can find us at InSessionFilm.com. That's the easiest way to find links to everything we do. We kind of restructured the podcast, so it's a little different if you used to listen to us and it's been a while. But we're having a lot of fun. We just did our In Session Film Awards last week, if you want to go and check that out. But yeah, you can watch us either here on YouTube. You can check out the YouTube channel, or you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those places. But you can find links to everything. We also have written content from a team of amazing writers as well that I love. You can check all that out at InSessionFilm.com. And thanks again for having me. This was a blast. I had a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. And Nicole, you as well. You guys are the best. And mark your calendars for next January, because you'll
Yeah.
be doing
Of
this
course.
all over again.
Oh, I'll be back.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we can get into then. But until then, guys, please make sure you find the link to the ballot. Head over and cast your vote. Like I said, the award ceremony and the winners will be announced coming up soon on February 19th. So voting ends on February 1st, to give myself time to put together the edits for the winners and tally up the ballots and all that kind of stuff. So you have until February 1st to cast your vote, and all that information is listed below. Thank you guys again so much. I really appreciate it. We'll see you at this year's Golden Peas ceremony. Thank you, guys.